The cabin was a hushed, darkened tube, slicing through the midnight air somewhere above the vast, indifferent Pacific. Below, a canvas of black ocean swallowed stars whole. Inside, the rhythmic drone of the engines was a lullaby to the weary, a constant hum that blurred the edges of reality. It was Flight 314, a direct route from Narita to Los Angeles, a journey of over 10 hours, now past its midpoint. Most passengers were asleep, or feigning it, heads slumped against pillows, screens glowing faintly in the dim. Arthur Finch was not. He was awake, his gaze fixed on nothing in particular through the small oval window. Not that there was anything to see, just the blackness, occasionally interrupted by a single distant star or the brief flash of a wingtip light. Arthur was a man of unremarkable habit, an accountant, returning from a business trip, heading back to a quiet suburban life. He had boarded the plane without fanfare, settled into his aisle seat, 23C, with a paperback and a thermos of lukewarm tea. He had exchanged a polite nod with the woman in the window seat, a brief, forgettable interaction. He was, by all accounts, just another face in a sea of hundreds, moving from one point on the globe to another. A ghost already, even before he truly became one. Around 2:47 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, roughly 7 hours into the flight, Arthur Finch stirred. He had been sitting for hours, the cabin air growing stale, the hum of the engines a persistent thrum against his skull. He needed to stretch, perhaps use the lavatory. He unbuckled his seatbelt with a soft click, a sound barely audible above the engine drone. His movements were slow, deliberate, as if not to disturb the slumbering world around him. He pushed past the sleeping woman in the window seat, offered a silent, apologetic gesture she didn't see. He walked down the aisle, a solitary figure moving against the faint blue glow of emergency lights, his shadow stretching long and distorted behind him. He passed rows of sleeping passengers, their faces obscured by darkness. He moved beyond the mid-cabin galley, where a single flight attendant, a young woman named Sarah, was quietly tidying. She glanced up, saw him pass, a quick, automatic assessment. An ordinary passenger, walking to the rear of the aircraft. Nothing unusual, just a man, taking a walk. Arthur Finch continued his slow, measured pace towards the very back of the plane, towards the rear lavatories, towards the aft galley area, towards the unknown. Sarah watched him disappear around the corner, into the segment of the plane reserved for the final rows and the crew's preparation space. She thought nothing of it. Why would she? It was a perfectly normal sight. A passenger, simply needing to stretch his legs. An hour passed, then another. Sarah, the flight attendant, was making her rounds, offering water to the occasional stirring passenger. As she approached the rear of the cabin, a subtle unease began to prick at her. She remembered the man, Arthur Finch, walking back here. He hadn't returned to his seat. She had a mental checklist of every passenger, a subconscious awareness of their presence. His absence was now a quiet whisper in the back of her mind. She checked the rear lavatories, both vacant. She checked the small crew rest area, just a glance through the curtain. Empty. She walked the length of the plane, a quick, unobtrusive sweep, her eyes scanning the faces of those awake, then those asleep. Arthur Finch was not among them. He wasn't in the forward lavatories, nor the mid-cabin galley. He wasn't chatting with anyone. He wasn't even in the usually busy queue for the restrooms. He was simply gone. Sarah reported her observation to the senior purser, David. David, a seasoned veteran of countless flights, initially dismissed it as a passenger having found an empty row to sleep in, or perhaps even a quick tryst in a lavatory, though such incidents were rare and usually not so prolonged. But Sarah was insistent. He's not just moved, David. He's not anywhere. A quick check of the flight manifest confirmed his seat, 23C, was indeed empty. An official, though discreet, Search began. The cabin crew moved through the plane, compartment by compartment, lavatory by lavatory, even checking overhead bins and under seats with a growing sense of disbelief. The captain was informed. The impossible had begun to unfold. When Flight 314 finally touched down at Los Angeles International, the search escalated from discreet to comprehensive. Ground crew, airport security, and federal agents were waiting. The plane was immediately isolated, parked away from the main terminals. Every passenger was held on board, an announcement made about a security incident. Vague, unsettling. Each person was then carefully disembarked, their identities checked against the manifest. Arthur Finch was not among them. The plane itself underwent a meticulous forensic sweep. Every single crevice, every compartment, every access panel, every lavatory, every galley, every overhead bin, every cargo hold accessible from the cabin, all were searched. The entire aircraft was virtually disassembled and reassembled, piece by piece. They checked the pressurized compartments, the equipment bays. They looked for any sign of a struggle, any stray item, any clue, however small, that Arthur Finch had ever been there, or where he might have gone. There was nothing. No trace. The doors were sealed, the windows intact. The aircraft was a hermetically sealed tube, pressurized and self-contained. There was no way out at 35,000 feet. No one saw him leave. No one saw him hide. No one saw him pass through any exit. It was as if Arthur Finch, a man who had boarded a plane, walked to the back and simply evaporated. The sheer impossibility of it hung heavy in the air, a silent, chilling question mark. In the weeks and months that followed, the official investigation floundered, then stalled, then simply remained open, a cold case hanging like a shroud over the airline. Theories, both official and speculative, began to surface, each one more desperate than the last. The most immediate thought: suicide. But how? To open an emergency exit at cruising altitude is nearly impossible due to the immense pressure difference, and even if attempted, it would have caused catastrophic depressurization, a violent, undeniable event. No such event occurred. And even if he had somehow managed to breach the hull, where was the evidence? The sudden gust of wind, the shriek of metal, the debris? Nothing. Could he have stowed away? The internal compartments of an aircraft are small, often inaccessible from the cabin, and certainly not survivable for long periods due to temperature, pressure, and lack of oxygen. And again, no sign of forced entry, no disturbed panels. What about the landing gear bay? Equally impossible. The bays are exposed to extreme cold and lack oxygen, and require specific access, not just a casual stroll. Was he taken? Abducted? The idea of someone being covertly snatched from a fully booked, brightly lit commercial airliner without a single witness, without a struggle, without a sound, stretches the bounds of credulity to their absolute breaking point. Who could possibly orchestrate such a silent, seamless disappearance within the most controlled of environments? And why Arthur Finch, an unassuming accountant? No enemies, no debts, no known connections to anything remotely sinister. The theories circled, each one hitting a wall of logic, a barrier of physics. Every explanation seemed to fall apart under scrutiny, leaving only the impossible fact. Arthur Finch had boarded a plane, walked to the back, and simply ceased to exist. Years have passed since Flight 314 landed without one of its passengers. Arthur Finch's family lives in a perpetual state of limbo, a grief without a body, a loss without an explanation. His small apartment remains as he left it, a silent testament to a life that simply stopped mid-journey. The airline maintains a public stance of unprecedented circumstances and ongoing cooperation with authorities, while privately, they too are baffled, their security protocols tightened to an almost absurd degree. The official file remains open, a thick dossier filled with dead ends, forensic reports confirming nothing, witness statements describing an ordinary man on an ordinary flight. No new leads have ever emerged. No one has ever come forward with a credible explanation. The closest thing to an answer is a chilling void, a blank space in the fabric of what we understand to be possible. The story of Arthur Finch is whispered among air marshals and seasoned flight attendants, a modern ghost story that unfolds not in a haunted house, but in the most sterile, secure, and seemingly inescapable environment imaginable, a commercial airliner at 35,000 feet. It is a stark reminder that even within the most controlled confines, under the watchful eyes of hundreds, the world can still hold impossibilities. Sometimes, a person can walk to the back of a plane and simply vanish into thin air, leaving nothing but questions and the chilling thought that it could happen again, to anyone, on any flight.